Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Please be noted in the attendance that Councillor Gerard LeBlanc is absent with regrets. And could we all rise for the playing of O Canada? Thank you very much, everyone. Item number 3, additions or deletions to the agenda is circulated. Does anyone have anything to add or delete? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda as circulated.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Patty Durkee, seconded by Councillor Daniel Allen. A motion on the floor to approve the agenda as circulated. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. Item number 5, presentations 5.1, Heritage Advisory Committee recommendations. 5.1.1, application to deregister 740 Highway 1, Hebron. Jenny, I do believe you have a report on that, so you have the floor.
Thank you. So for 740 Highway 1 Hebron, we received an application to deregister from the owner, Rosalie Hines, back on October 7th, 2019. And this is a municipal heritage property. So in your packages, you should see the full detailed report that we did, but I'll just give a high-level overview. So in the report, it indicates that the municipal council is to consider deregistration applications as a registered municipal heritage property. So I've included sections 3 and section 16. So when considering to deregister, you need to consider the character defining elements of the property and the heritage value of it. So for this property, it was built back in 1848 for John Trask IV, who was a farmer. And I couldn't find much information about the overall heritage value, but in the report you'll see a list of the character defining elements. And just to summarize, their reason to deregister is they're looking to list the property for sale in the near future. They don't have a date specified. So they feel that the designation of being a heritage property will negatively affect the sale. Their insurance broker also informed them that a new buyer may experience difficulty obtaining insurance for a heritage home. In the package, you'll see a letter from their insurance broker just specifying the premiums for a heritage property, and what they're saying it's 25% and higher for a heritage property to be insured. They're saying there's no incentive for a heritage property owner other than the provincial rebate. And lastly, they're saying it's a lengthy process for an application for alterations. So the Heritage Advisory Committee wants to make a recommendation not to deregister 740 Highway 1 Hebron, as the reasons stated in their application do not meet the criteria of the Heritage Property Act.
Thank you very much for that, Jenny. Is there any questions, comments by any council members? Hearing none, what is the wishes of Councillor Trevor Cunningham?
Yes, perhaps we could have our CAO comment on.
Absolutely. Madam CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So through you, Mr. Chairman, to Councillor Cunningham, the issue has been discussed at the Heritage Advisory Committee table just prior to Jenny joining our team. And so we do have owners of registered municipal heritage properties who struggle with the parameters around owning that heritage property. Some people inherited the homes, some people bought the homes and didn't know they were registered, some people were the owners when they were registered. So it's a variety of home ownership types. We worked with provincial colleagues around trying to understand how we can speak to some of these issues that were raised by the owners of 741 Highway 1. And there's a couple of things that the Heritage Advisory Committee will be looking at over the coming year or so, is in terms of, what types of incentives could they recommend to council to help perhaps offset some of those pieces. In terms of the timeline to receive approvals for applications for work to the homes, we did have an issue during the turnover in staff with some files resting for longer than a reasonable amount of time. And so we have communicated with the homeowners that that's not the normal experience we want to give clients, and that it was due to a change in staffing levels. And so we've worked with the development office and the chair of the Heritage Advisory Committee to understand the process and make sure that the timelines are as tight as possible. So the Heritage Property Act speaks to unreasonable circumstances or unreasonable pressures on registered property owners as really the only reason to allow a deregistration. And so it's the feeling of the Heritage Advisory Committee that the reasons this property owner is citing are not unreasonable, that there's probably solutions we can come up with.
Does that satisfy your answer, Councillor Cunningham? Or your question, sorry.
It does. That helps. That clarifies things quite a bit. So, just to sort of say back what our CAO said is essentially that there's a frame to do this deregistration under, and they haven't met the standard to have it deregistered essentially, and that's what the Heritage Advisory Committee is saying. So, I understand.
All right, thank you very much. If there's no other questions, I would either entertain for council to move forward with the Heritage Advisory Committee's recommendation not to approve, or sorry, not to deregister 740
Mr.
Highway
Chair?
1. Yes, go ahead.
Do we need a motion to deny the deregistration? It's a negative. I don't know if we can do it that way, or is that what we're expecting at this point?
Madam CAO?
I think the motion is to accept the Heritage Advisory Committee's recommendation.
Yes, that's exactly it.
Okay, then I'll make a motion to accept the Heritage Committee's recommendation that we do not allow deregistration of the property.
Okay, motion on the floor by Councillor Patty Durkee. Do I have a seconder? Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Daniel Allen. Is there any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Contrary minded? Motion carried. Thank you very much, Council. Item 5.1.2, application to deregister 44 Old Post, Darlings Lake. Jenny, you have the floor once again.
Thank you. This property is also known as Churchill Mansion. So back on October 17th, we received an application from the property owners Daniel and Carrie Dome to request deregistration of their municipal heritage property. So again, in my reports, I included the section 30 and section 16 to indicate that when considering deregistration, you need to consider the character defining elements and heritage value of the property. the statement of significance for this property is quite detailed, but just to kind of summarize high level, the property was originally built as a summer residence for Aaron Flint Churchill back in 1889 and 1890. And he was known for being a sea captain by the age of 21, and he also had a reputation of being an inventor. In my report, you'll find the list of character defining elements of the property, and to summarize their application of their reasons why they want to deregister is they're saying that there's a lot of substantial exterior work to be done, and there's a lot of water damage based on construction that was done by a previous owner. And they find when applying for alterations, it's a very cumbersome process. They've indicated they were denied permission to add a window to the front of the property, which would, and they feel, would make it look a lot better. They also sent along some photos that you can find in the report of some work that they've done to some existing windows to show that they can kind of replicate the work that was there and to enhance the overall appearance of the property. They mentioned they recognize that the property is important to the area and the highly value of its historical significance. They are open to advice and options and to work with the municipality, but in the end, it's their property, they're paying for it, and they're paying for all all the changes that are being done there. They've also indicated that at some point they will resell the property. They don't have any date set, but they find that the designation is a detriment to a resale. So our recommendation is not to deregister 44 Old Post Road in Darlings Lake, as their reasons stated in their application do not meet the criteria in the Heritage Property Act.
Thank you very much for that, Jenny. Is there any questions or comments? Councillor Patty Durkee.
There has been a lot of discussion apparently over the years on 44 Old Post Road, and apparently, according to the members of the Heritage Committee, there's been accommodations made, and at this point, they just feel that changes shouldn't be going on, especially because it's such a significant property. So I'll make that motion to accept the Heritage Committee's recommendation.
All right, motion on the floor to accept the Heritage Committee's recommendation. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Trevor Cunningham. All right, motion on the floor. Any discussion on that motion?
Question.
Question being called. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried unanimously. Moving on, item 5.2, presentation of the 1920 audited financial statements. 5.2.1, financial statements. Either Gloria or Greg, you have the floor, whichever one would wish to present those.
Well, I'll just open it up by just introducing Gloria and Chris from Grant Thornton. Everyone knows them by now, I'm sure. And they're here this evening to deliver our audited consolidated financial statement for the year ended March 31st, 2020. Hopefully it will be approved by council, and then we'll move on. You can move on to the next items on your agenda. So
All right.
I'll open the floor. I'll give the floor to Gloria, and I think she'll walk us through it. And I believe I'm going to try to share screen and put the document up on my screen to share with you, and we'll walk through it with you.
My apologies, I missed Chris on the screen, so Gloria or Chris, you have the floor.
Yep, as soon as Greg gets the statements up so everybody can see, I will begin.
Can everyone see them?
Yep, I can.
Yeah, I can too.
Okay.
I can.
And I guess
Okay, so do you want to start on the independent
Yes,
auditors
you can see.
report page, Greg?
Yep.
So just as an introduction, these are the consolidated financial statements. So they take into consideration the operations of the municipality of the District of Yarmouth, which would include all of their internal funds, capital fund, operating fund, and all of the reserves. As well, it brings into consideration your jointly controlled organizations that you participate in, which are the Mariner Center Management Authority, the Yarmouth International Airport Corporation, the Yarmouth Area Industrial Commission, Yarmouth and Acadian Shores Tourism Association, and the Yarmouth County Solid Waste Management Authority. So all of these entities are proportionally consolidated with the operations of the municipality of the District of Yarmouth and are included in this consolidated financial statement. So this is our independent auditor's report. And so it is what we consider to be a clean audit opinion. We didn't find anything while we did our audit, which would require us to have to modify the wording included in the report. And it starts out with the introduction that these are the statements for March 31st, 2020. The second paragraph is basically our opinion. It says, in our opinion, the accompanying consolidated financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the municipality of the District of Yarmouth as at March 31st, 2020, and the results of its operations and its cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards. And that's the framework that you fall under. So that's our opinion. The rest are all supporting notes with regards to the audit itself. So the basis for opinion paragraph just outlines that we are required to follow Canadian generally accepted auditing standards when we complete your audit. They are very regimented and documented in terms of the processes that we do. And at the end of the day, we have to be able to make sure that we have the audit evidence that's appropriate to issue this opinion. There's a section on the responsibilities of management and those charged with governance. So management's responsibility is the preparation of these financial statements in accordance with public sector accounting standards, and also to set a system of internal controls that they feel is appropriate in the circumstances to make sure that your financial data is being properly accumulated throughout the year. And the goal of having a good system of internal controls is to make sure that there are no material misstatements in your financial statements. Management also has to look at what we call the going concern principle, just to make sure that in the future you will be able to realize your assets and pay out your liabilities. So that's an assessment that's done at the end of each year. And then those charged with governance are responsible for overseeing the municipality's financial reporting process. So that's a high-level overview process of management's responsibilities. On the next page, this section is on your auditor's responsibilities when it comes to completing the audit and issuing our audit opinion. So our main objective is to obtain reasonable assurance that the financial statements are free of material misstatement. And while reasonable assurance is a high level of assurance, it's not a 100% guarantee that there wouldn't still be the potential to have an error in these financial statements. And that's the inherent nature of any audit. And history has shown that when those types of things happen, it's usually due to fraud in organizations. But in terms of what we do to make sure that we're comfortable with your financial statements, you can see listed in the bullet points. The first one is we identify and assess the risk, the highest risk of potential error in your financial statements. And that's where we focus the most of our audit attention, in those areas of highest risk. We do obtain an understanding of your internal controls. We don't have to audit them, but we have to understand how they operate so that we can be comfortable that the financial data is being properly accumulated. We have to look at your accounting policies from two perspectives. First of all, that they fall in accordance with the public sector accounting standards. And secondly, that the policies that you've chosen are the ones that you are actually following yourself. We have to make sure that we can conclude and agree with management's assessment of the going concern principle. We evaluate the overall presentation of the financial statements to make sure they look reasonable in the circumstances. And then the last item is where there are several entities that are consolidated with your operations. We have to make sure that we obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence over the operations of the subsidiaries as well. And then at the end of the day, we communicate with those charged with governance on our report. And so it is dated today, would be the day that hopefully they'll be approved by council, and that's when draft will come off of these statements. And so we did meet with your audit committee 2 weeks ago, and we went through the financial numbers included in the financial statements in detail. So I'm actually just going to do a high-level overview of the actual financial results. The next page So the next page is management's responsibility. I won't go over this in detail, but under the public sector accounting standards, your management has to take responsibility in writing for these financial statements. And so that's what this page is included for. And you can see that it is signed internally by your warden and your CAO. So then if we want to move on to page 4. So page 4 and 5 are the two most important pages included in your report. So page 4 is the consolidated statement of operations. You can see it's your revenues and your expenditures. You can see the budget for 2020 is included, the actual for 2019. And the budget for 2020 includes the budgets from each of the subsidiaries that are consolidated as well. And it's in accordance with public sector accounting standards. So it would look a bit different than the budget you would set at the beginning of the year for the operations of the municipality, which are done for rate setting purposes. So it will look a little bit different from there. So in terms of, we look just at your revenue items, your original budget was set at $11,101,530. You came in at $11,152,272. So you're about $51,000 higher than your budget, which is actually a very small amount considering it's an $11 million budget to come in that close to your budget. There are a couple items there that one is up and one is down, but the net results in the $51,000. You can see the conditional transfers from the federal and provincial governments and its agencies. You had originally set a budget of $540,023, and you came in at $204,525. And the reason for that change from budget was because you had planned to spend more money on the ferry terminal during the year. You had budgeted to spend out of your gas tax money for that. And in actual fact, you spent less during the year. And the one just below it, your budget for interest of $221,690 is the interest on your general operating funds, not on your reserves. And your reserves do generate significant interest, and that's why you'll see there's a higher actual for 2020 of $484,870. So those are kind of the two numbers that are a little bit different from your budget. And then if we look at it in comparison to the prior year, your actual for the prior year was $10,758,198. So you're up about $395,000 over the prior year. And there's really only two items that have increased. And you can see the top line is in your taxes. You're up by $275,000 over the prior year. So there was a small rate increase that did happen during the year. And then some assessments would have been higher as well. That's the main reason for increases in your taxes. And then you can see also the conditional transfers from federal and provincial governments and agencies. Last year was only $86,000, and this year it's $204,525. And you're always going to see fluctuations in that number because that's going to be your grant money. And so your grant money is brought into revenue as you spend it. And so it is a bit higher this year than it would have been from last year. If we look at the expense side now, you can see that your original budget was $10,922,304. And you came in at $10,591,057. And so you're about $330,000 lower than the original budget that was set. And the biggest reason for that was you did have a higher budget plan to spend on the ferry terminal than when you actually did. And then if we compare it to the prior year, your prior year was $9,633,137. And so it's up about $957,000 over the prior year. And $360,000 of that is directly related to the ferry terminal contribution that you did make during the year, less than what you had budgeted, had planned to spend about $600,000 and you spent $360,000. And then if you look in the category called environmental development services, you are up over the prior year by about $235,000. And a significant portion of that is the investment you made at the Cape Feroce Light during the year. So you did a study to look at the future operations as well as the costs associated with that. So those are really the two main areas where we see increases in your expenses over the prior year. Included in your numbers, though, are the subsidiaries, and so they did have some higher expenses during the year as well for amortization. So what that does is, at the end of the day, your annual surplus before the undernoted is $561,215 this year. It's $1,125,000 last year, so it's down about $563,000. And then that's really a net result of your revenues being up 394, but your expenses being up as well 957,000. And so then you had a small loss on disposal of some capital assets. So your annual surplus this year is $553,622. You had an accumulated surplus at the beginning of the year of $30,563,670. And so we add in your surplus for this year. Your accumulated surplus at the end of the year is $31,117,292. That number ties in right directly into the next page as well. When we turn over to page 5, you'll see that number on the very bottom of the statement of financial position. The two have to balance, of course, from one place to the next. So your statement of financial position is basically a balance sheet. It's your assets and your liabilities. The top half are financial assets, and so those are considered to be assets that are readily convertible to cash. Your non-financial assets are down at the bottom of the page, and those are your tangible capital assets, which aren't available for sale to generate cash to pay out your liabilities. So in terms of your financial assets, you can see that one of the largest items is the unrestricted cash, $12,908,000. And so it is up a bit over the prior year. So every year you're getting gas tax money, and it gets set aside until you spend it on your projects in the future. So you did get an extra payment this year from the federal government through the provincial government down to you under your gas tax program. So every year that you get your gas tax money that you don't spend it, your cash balance is going to grow a bit. And then you can see that you have your taxes receivable are up a little bit over the prior year, a lot probably to do with the fact that taxes were up a bit during the year. You did have a small rate increase, so you would expect the receivables to be up. But we do quite a bit of work around the receivables to make sure that the balances are properly reflected in your statements and there aren't any significant collection issues. And then other receivables is a large number as well. And that's basically the money that you have advanced to your fire departments that they're paying you back over time. So your total financial assets are $14,951,185. Under your liabilities, there aren't any new categories this year. You can see that your actual payables and accruals are down a little bit from the prior year. Last year, there would have been a payable with regards to a final payment on the Domtex demolition. So that's why your payables would be a little bit lower this year. And then you can see your deferred revenue. So that's the money that I referred to that is setting aside for your gas tax money. And so you bring it into revenue when you actually spend it on an approved project. So until that time, it sits here as deferred revenue. And you can see that it did grow over the prior year. There was no new issuance of long-term debt during the year. So you can see that it's decreased based on the principal payments that were made during the year. And none of the subsidiaries that you consolidate have any external debt. So that is all the municipality's debt itself. And then the very last item that is a larger is your other post-employment benefits. And that would be for your sick time accrual and your service awards. So your total liabilities are $7,733,989. And that gives you a net financial asset position of $7,217,196. So it is up over the prior year, and that is a very strong position to be in, to have a positive net financial asset position. And then your non-financial assets, we call them tangible capital assets. So that's all of your infrastructure that you have to be able to provide the services to your residents. You can see it's $23,848,000. And so you did spend an additional $1.5 million in new capital additions during the year. Your public works building, administrative renovations, the ARCOM building, a whole bunch of small items, but the biggest one being the addition of the public works building. And then you have a little bit of inventory and prepaid expenses. So your total non-financial assets are $23,900,096. So when you look at the accumulated surplus number of $31,117,000, $23 million has been spent on your infrastructure, and that's what it's invested in. Not sure if there are any questions on those 2 pages. Those are the more important pages. I'll just talk quickly about the next page, which is page 6. So this is the changes in your net financial asset. The balance sheet that we just looked at had the $7.2 million in net financial assets, which I indicated was a very healthy position to be in. And this just shows how you grew that position over the prior year. Obviously, it starts with your annual surplus. It's reduced by any amount that you're spent on your tangible capital assets, but then it's reimbursed by your what we call your tangible capital assets. So any year where you're going to have a significant outlay of funds to purchase new tangible capital assets or invest in the infrastructure in your region, you're going to see this balance will decrease. And so in the current year, you actually increase the balance by $690,295. And then page 7. It's a similar type of page. It really shows the continuity of your cash balance from last year to your cash balance of this year. And it shows what you used your cash on and what generated cash for you during the year. But basically, the main thing to take away here is your net cash increased by $1,073,615. And last year it grew by $726,000. So you are increasing your cash values consistently year over year. The remaining pages are the supporting notes for the balances that we've just looked at, a listing of all your detailed accounting policies. There was no changes in public sector accounting standards during the year, and there was no internal changes in your own reporting processes. So all these notes will be very similar to the prior year. And as I said earlier, we did go over the details of these with your audit committee a couple of weeks ago. So the only new note that I wanted to point out is we did put in a note this year, which we've entitled Subsequent Events. And it's on page, way at the back, Greg, on page 25.
We'll find it eventually.
Okay. So part of what we did this year for the audit, everybody knows COVID-19 was a significant impact in our rural Nova Scotia and around Nova Scotia and all across the world. So it did happen prior to March 31st. So we did have to take it into consideration when we did our audit. We had to look at it and say whether or not there had been anything that happened in kind of those last couple of weeks of March that might negatively impact your financial data that we've just looked at. So the assets and liabilities or the revenues or expenses. So we had to look at it from that perspective to see if anything happened in those last 2 weeks. And we were able to conclude that there wasn't anything significant from a financial impact that did occur or negatively impact you. And then we have to look at it, what happened in the period subsequent to March 31st, 2020, but prior to us releasing these financial statements. And so we have developed some disclosure just about the things that the municipality took on in terms of looking at the impact on your community and how it might impact you. And you can see there, we've just detailed that council provided some temporary property tax relief for the residents, extension of payment deadlines, etc. But based up until today, there really hasn't been any significant impact in terms of a reduction in your revenues, and management has been careful to make sure that they're managing your expenses in relation to that. But of course, we can't predict what might happen between now and the end of March 31st, 2021. So we do have that final paragraph, which just says we can't predict the future, but as of today, there hasn't been a really significant impact on your operations. So that's our presentation of the financial results.
Is there any questions or comments from any council member? I can't see all of you, so if anyone has any questions, please speak up. Go ahead, Trevor. I think I seen your hand up.
Just a comment, thanking Grant Thornton for the presentation. And I'm pleased to see that we're in a favorable financial position, especially with our reserve dollars. So we will have the capacity to accomplish the things we want to in the future in terms of sidewalking, in terms of potential Mariner Center expansion and so forth. So that's good news, and I think we've been good stewards of the finances, and I'm looking forward to a bright future for the municipality district of Yarmouth. So thank you.
Any other comments or questions? I do have one question to Greg. The motion that you would need for the presentation of the audited financial statements, would that be an acceptance or an approval? I think it's an approval, correct?
Yeah, well, we should have, it's almost synonymous. We need to, I think we should accept the statements that have been presented by the auditors.
Yeah, okay. So with that said, I'd entertain a motion to accept the presentation of the 2019-2020 audited financial statements. Moved by Councillor Trevor Cunningham. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Lauren Cushing. Is there any discussion on that motion? Question being called. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Contrary minded? Motion carried.
All right, then, well, if that concludes that part of your agenda, I'll thank Gloria and Chris, and I guess the three of us will sign off, and you guys can enjoy the rest of your evening.
Great, thanks, Chris.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Gloria.
Thank you.
Great.
Have a
Thanks,
good
Gloria.
evening.
Thanks,
Chris,
Chris.
All right.
thanks, Chris.
Thank you very much, everyone. Okay, moving on. Item number 6. Is there any declaration of conflicts of interest? If there's any, please speak up during any part of the agenda where you find that you maybe have any conflict of interest, and it will be noted in the minutes. I do have one question for Councillor Patty Durkee. When you said that you went offline or your internet was unstable, does that mean you're losing the meeting, or you're just turning off your video?
No, it just means I'm turning off my video because it seems to work better. I do have it coming across. It says your internet connection is unstable. So if that happens and I flip off, but I can still hear everybody.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that you weren't missing any part of the meeting that,
Nope,
okay, just.
trying again.
Thank you very much. Item number 7, approval of the minutes. You all have the meeting minutes in front of you. I'd entertain a motion to accept the minutes, or sorry, approve the minutes as circulated. Councillor Patty Durkee.
Sure, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of August 26th, 2020, the regular council minutes, September 16th, 2020, committee of the whole minutes, September 16th, 2020, regular council minutes, and September 16th, 2020, municipal grants working session.
All right, a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second.
Seconded by
I'll
Councillor
second.
Lauren. Seconded by Councillor Lauren Cushing. Is there any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. Item number 8, business arising from the minutes. 8.1, recommendations from the September Committee of the Whole. 8.1.1, second reading of the private maintenance charge bylaw, P-086-20. You all have that in your agenda. What is the wishes of council? Right below that, you'll see there's a recommendation put forward, a recommended motion.
John, you have Lauren.
Yes, go ahead, Councillor Cushing.
I'll move to approve the second reading of the private road change bylaw P-086-020.
Okay, motion on the
Is that what
floor.
you
Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Daniel Allen. Is there any discussion on that motion?
I have one.
Go ahead, Councillor Cushing.
I think it's been a good exercise that we've been going through, identifying the private road maintenance change in the bylaws and whatnot. Just for any future development in our municipality, is certainly going to have some teeth to how the developer is to build a road and maintain them, sort of thing, as they go on. So we don't run into problems such as we had at Green Rock Drive. There's still a lot of unhappy people there. But we went through the exercise, and it was clearly stated that the municipality is not responsible for their road, and they still claim that there's some document that was forwarded to the municipality of Yarmouth that says that it is a responsibility of the municipality. But I told them several times, if you can produce that document, please do so, and I'll bring it forward. But I don't think there's such a document there. They might have been told something like this years ago just to keep peace, but I'm not aware of it. I'm sure our CAO is not aware of it either. So, but looking in the future, we what we've done here is certainly have prevented from a situation like this happening again in the future, because a number of the so-called private roads, I still claim they're nothing but an extended driveway, but because of the number of houses on it, they're declared as a private road. But there is some good private roads out there that are not really up to standard, and I'm glad we've moved forward to this part in this bylaw. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much, Councillor Cushing. Is there any other discussion on that motion? And I do have to ask, Madam CAO, is there any correspondence in regards to this second reading?
Chairman, no, there was no correspondence. And just for the record, for clarification, this is not the type of bylaw where council was required to have a public hearing. So essentially, it would have just been on the onus of any interested citizens to correspond with you if they had questions or concerns, and we have none.
Thank you very much, Madam CAO. Is there any more discussion on the motion? If not, I'd entertain a question.
Question?
Question.
Question being called on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. Item 8.1.2, violence in the workplace policy number V-1068-19. You all have that in your package. Councillor Daniel Allen is the first one.
Yes, I move to approve the violence in the workplace policy V-1068-19 as amended.
Motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Patty Durkee. Is there any discussion on that motion? Councillor Trevor Cunningham.
Right, just for the viewing public, we obviously have had some issues with violence in the workplace of late, and we reviewed the policy and made changes based on our experience with the policy. So the fact that we had the policy in place was good governance, and the fact that we're reviewing the policy and making some required changes, not large changes, but they do have a significant functional value, is important. So I'll make those comments. Question.
Question being called on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. Thank you very much, Council. I'm going to make one quick comment about that. That is a policy that we unfortunately had experience in, and we found that there was some deficiencies or the way that the policy was written. So those have been corrected, and hopefully we never have to use this policy again. Item 8.2, discussions on aquatics project. Councillor Trevor Cunningham, you had asked to have this put on the agenda. The floor is yours.
Right, and we all know, been knocking on doors, and other people have as well. The fact that the YMCA is now closed, and the Y is not any longer operating as an entity. It's now called a Centennial Building, but it's not open to the public, and it's a really, really important piece of infrastructure, especially the pool. It needs to be open as soon as possible. We do know that the town has purchased the property. And I'm just wondering, we haven't heard anything for a while from the town about their intentions, and also their ask of us in terms of collaborating with them to open the pool and then transition to a newer facility at the Mariners Center as soon as possible. But again, that will be some time. So it's critical we move that forward for the people of the county. Having said that, I think we should write the town a letter asking them for an update of the status of the Centennial Pool and any work they've done with the province, that type of thing, so that we know where we stand and how we can assist. So I'll move that we write the town of Yarmouth, copy the MLA for Yarmouth, asking them for an update about the Centennial Pool reopening plan.
Okay, a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Councillor Lauren Cushing. Thank you very much, Council. Is there any discussion on that motion? Councillor Patty Durkee, then Councillor Daniel Allen, then Councillor Lauren Cushing.
It's my understanding that there's a whole committee that's been involved from the Argyle 2024 committee that's been working on that. And Dan, I believe it's you that I think is on that part of the committee. Maybe you, Mr. Chair, through you to Councillor Allen might have a bit of an update on that.
Councillor Allen, you have the floor.
Sure. Thank you, Councillor Durkee. We had a meeting, we had a walkthrough of the YMCA a little over a month ago to look at the facilities. I also sit on the bridge committee, which is intended to bridge the gap to provide programming to get us from the closure of the YMCA to the new Mariner Center expansion. There's a lot of different views on how to get there. And I think what we got to keep in mind here first and foremost is it's just not about opening the doors and getting things going. We have to figure out what programs we're going to provide and who they're going to be provided for, such as seniors, kids, swim teams. There's more programming than just the swimming pool in that building. And in order to open that pool, I think you're going to find the rest of the building may have to be opened as well. So before we start, putting our head right down and saying we've got to reopen that building, we need to know what programming we're going to provide. And sitting on the bridge committee, it's been a little slow. I realize the election's coming, so it's it's hard to get right into it until we know who may be sitting on the committee in another month. But as far as asking them what their plan is for that facility, if we're going to be partners in all of this stuff, then I think we still got to be at the table. There's still a lot of discussions to be had before we can just throw in and reopening up that pool. And I'm not saying that the pool will never open or anything of that nature. This is just my opinion. But we have to figure out what programming we want to offer. And then we've got to figure out what facilities are best going to suit those programs. And then that's what we have to make happen. That's how I see it. I'm not the only person on the committee, and there's lots of different ideas, and I'm open to all ideas. But first, we really need to know what programs we're going to offer. I don't know if that helps you at all, Councillor Durkee, but.
I just knew that the last piece, I think, in the puzzle was the fact that you went with the group, and I think it's up to the group to kind of, my understanding, it was up to the group to decide where we were going in terms of reopening that facility or using other buildings for some programming. So I don't know if we're there yet to write that letter yet, because it's not just the town's decision, it's the town and the other two partners, I think, who would be asked to contribute.
And I guess Councillor Durkee, that's what I'm trying to get at is I don't think we're quite there yet. I think first and foremost, we need to know the programs we want to offer and who we're offering to. We'd like to come as close as possible to offering all the programs that the YMCA was offering. I think that would be that's a great goal, but we also have to be realistic. Some of them programs may not be able to be offered. Hopefully most of them will. And once we figure out the programming, then we can look at the facilities we're going to need to be able to provide those programs. So before we jump into rushing to get the pool open, which again would be very restrictive right now with COVID-19 going on, I think the letter should be just we should be writing a letter asking where exactly are we in the process to getting us there. And I don't feel we're very far yet.
Councillor Trevor Cunningham, I do see your hand up, but before you, there was Councillor Allen had asked to speak and Councillor Lauren Cushing had asked to speak. I do acknowledge that you have your hand up to be next. Councillor Durkee, did that answer your question?
Yes, thank
Thank you very much, Councillor Durkee. Councillor Daniel Allen, you had asked to speak next.
Well, I guess Councillor Durkee's question was really what I wanted to say. So thank you. But again, I go back to, I think our letter needs to be, where are we in the process? Not just the facility, because we don't know what part of that facility we're even going to be using yet. Our committees need to start to keep moving, because we're still councillors until such time as a new council is sworn in. So we should still be working on these issues.
Thank you very much, Councillor Allen. Councillor Lauren Cushing.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I certainly agree with what Councillor and Trevor Cunningham was talking about, sending a letter to the town to see what's going on. And I hear the voice of Councillor Durkee on her concerns, and I certainly appreciate what Councillor Daniel Allen has mentioned about the Bridge Committee and viewing the YMCA building and whatnot. My concern here is we try to, I shouldn't say that. It appears that we're being lame ducks in trying to make some decision on what to do with that building. I hear rumors, and out on the campaign trail about that, how important the YMCA is or the building is. I'm gonna take away that YMCA because that's no longer there, but the Centennial Building, I guess that's the future name of it. But yes, recreation is a very important item in here, and I know the COVID thing has set in way back in March, but some restrictions have lifted during this time to the present time, and I'm sure we could have had some type of estimates of actual estimated costs to repair the building or repair the pool to get it up and running. I hadn't heard none of this, but I've heard some rumors about that. Gee whiz, we spent $100,000 on it. We can have the pool open in a month's time. Well, that's really not realistic. I don't think people should be making statements on like that until they actually have some facts. I've always been a person since I've been on council, and I've seen a lot of stuff going on, and I think I've contributed some to our council meetings that I like to have information before I make a decision. And to make a decision on the Centennial Building, I hadn't had enough information to properly for or against. However, in saying that, I think we've lost an opportunity where the 3 units, and I'll certainly suggest that the 3 CAOs that we have running all the 3 municipalities or the 3 municipal units, they're very smart people, and I am almost positive that we could have had an application in place, not that there's any funding available, but an application in place so when funding did come, we could take that application, put it on the tables, and here we go. This is what we want to do. And the application I'm thinking about is one of our fellow councilors, I think it was Trevor at one time, had brought up the East Hants Aquatic Center. I would consider that to be a well worth target to go after. Instead of us spending thousands and thousands of dollars on engineering design again, let's go knocking on their door and say that, can we use your plans or can we buy your plans? They're engineered, drawn. Now, my reasoning for that and why I'm saying this is, and I'm not sure if it was the Truro complex or the Pictou complex, one of those complexes bought or got the plans for their complex from Summerside PEI. So I like to be proactive here, and I'm not trying to be negative, but I think we should be proactive instead of reactive. Now, Daniel and John have been on this committee, and I know they would have valuable input if this committee would be moving along, making some suggestions, getting some estimates, so we'll know what the heck is going on. I mean, some of the verbal statements out there about, you know, spending, like I said before, $100,000 in a month to be open, and you know, those numbers are not facts. You know, we should be dealing with facts. You know, until the time that I can get, as a counselor, I can get all the information I need to either support or not support the Centennial building, I'm at a loss. I certainly not going to suggest that we spend money that unless we know what the cost is going to be. So being supportive and being financially responsible is two things. I'm supportive of recreation facilities, no doubt about it. As for the children, the seniors and whatnot, I know, again, if the three councils get together, I know we can make deals with the Grand Hotel for kids swimming, adult swimming, therapeutic, I can't say that word, but everybody knows what I'm talking about. And, you know, just to get us by until we be able to do something. And the aquatic center that we could have application for, we could have a design for, to lay it on the table when the feds and the provincials come across with some money. So, you know, that's the cool reality of it. You know, we have to think outside the box. We can't sit around on our behinds and wait for something to pop out of the sky, or all of a sudden we're in a big rush to get an application in. Let's have an application ready to go in. So I don't know if anybody's going to agree with me or disagree with me or love me or hate me, but that's the way it is.
Councillor
Thank
Trevor
you.
Cunningham, then Councillor Daniel Allen.
Right. So I mean, I think we know that short term we want to try to get the facility open and dealing with people. We can argue about what short term means, but long story short is, and I agree. Generally speaking, we need an update from the town. They are the owners of the building. We didn't choose to co-own it with them, and nor does Argyle own the building. So that's an important factor in this. And I know the committee's doing their work, but hasn't met for some time and so forth. So really, the town is, you know, partly in the driver's seat. We're there to respond to them. But I think we should, and I'll rephrase the motion if it's all right by the seconder, to write a letter to the town, copy Argyle probably, and as well as our MLA, and just to ask them for an update about where we are in the process, and if there's any additional information, new information they can share with us about it, and then I think that will be helpful. So I'll make that a motion.
Are you making that a subsidiary motion, Councillor Cunningham?
I just think I'll amend the motion to read that. So.
Madam CAO, does the first motion that's on the floor, does that have to be voted on, or can this be an amendment to the motion, or what's the protocol on that?
Yeah, I don't think it passes the threshold of materiality. I think it is just fine tuning the original motion. So I think it can be a friendly amendment if the seconder agrees, which would alleviate the need for a vote on the amendment.
All right, does the seconder agree? Councillor Allen? I'm sorry, your microphone is not on.
Yes, yeah, I'll agree to amend the motion.
So to be clear on that motion that has the friendly amendment to it, Councillor Trevor Cunningham, could you repeat that, please?
Well, it's to write the town of Yarmouth, copy the MLA in Argyle, and just ask them if there's any additional information or update that they can give us on the status of the reopening of the Centennial building, and if there's anything that I guess that's the end of it, essentially asking for an update.
Madam CAO, then Councillor Allen.
I'm going to share what I'm going to share to try and help support council. I think to communicate with the town, probably in a way that will alleviate any confusion. So the way the motion is worded right now, the town may say, well, the municipality is part of the project planning committee that has the two veins, so the bridge and the new build. If I'm hearing you correctly, Councillor Trevor Cunningham, through the chair to you, you're thinking maybe broader in terms of, you know, outside of any joint project we might do together.
Absolutely.
You're thinking more broadly. What are the plans?
Absolutely. Outside, what are the plans? They're the owners of the building, which makes them different than certainly us or Argyle. So just if there's anything outside of the 2024 plan that in the transition that they could share with us, that would be helpful.
Councillor Allen.
I think you may want to go back and just check who the seconder was on this original motion. I thought Lauren had seconded the original motion.
I think that's correct.
All
I
right.
don't think I seconded the original motion.
Victoria Pierce, could you please correct me on that?
Hi, John. The original seconder was Lauren. Yeah.
Okay, my apologies on that.
No, that's all right, John. Thank you.
All right. I do have one point of clarification on this. Councillor Trevor Cunningham, you stated that the motion would be to write to the town directly, since they're the owner of the new Centennial building. I'm trying not to cause any conflict here, but I am the chair of the Yargall 2024 committee, and from my understanding, anything like that, any plans, shouldn't that be going through, Madam CEO, through the bridge committee?
Well, I don't think so, because I think the clarification I got from Councillor Trevor Cunningham was that it's less about the project we're working on together and more about what the owner of the asset has in terms of a bigger vision for the building. So I'm thinking it's directed correctly.
I know it is, and what I'm having trouble with here is we have a new committee build and we have a subcommittee on the bridge. Now, does that bridge involve just in regards to the funding and the projects that we're going to have? Because the Centennial building, from what I'm gathering, and everything seems to be, the water is muddying here as far as I'm concerned, of that chair of that committee. I do know that the town bought the YMCA building. They now own it. So is their plans going to be to open up the YMCA building as a bridge, whereas the committee might think that they might not want to use that facility? They might want to use other like facilities, whether it be school gyms or another pool in the area just to bridge. That's where I'm getting a little bit foggy here.
Mr. Chair, request to go in camera due to contract negotiations.
Absolutely. Need a motion to go into camera?
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Trevor Cunningham, seconded by Councillor Daniel Allen. All those in favor to go into camera signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Thank you very much, Council. Call this meeting back to order. Recording Secretary Victoria Pierce, could you please repeat the motion that's on the floor, please?
Hi, John, certainly. So the motion would be to write to the town, copy the municipality of Argyle and the MLA to ask where they are in the process and whether they have any new information about the building on Main Street and what they plan to do with their asset at this time.
Okay, is everyone clear on the motion on the floor? Is there any more discussion on the motion? Councillor Trevor Cunningham.
I think we should be specific and mention the Centennial building. We said the building on Main Street, but it is the Centennial building, just for clarity.
Is that okay with the seconder, Lauren Cushing?
Perfect.
All right, is there any more discussion on that motion?
Question.
Question being called on that motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Contrary minded? Motion carried. All right, next item on business arising from the minutes, 8.3, recommendations from the Planning Advisory Committee. 8.3.1, rezoning of 354 Hard Scratch Road, Brooklyn. You all have that in your package, and you also have the recommendation from the Planning Advisory Committee. What is the wishes of council? Madam CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'll just provide a summary on this application. So the Planning Advisory Committee received an application from the owner of PID 901-34925 Hard Scratch Road, Brooklyn, to rezone a portion of the lands where commercial activities are taking place. So the entire parcel has a rural commercial zone as well as a rural development zone. And the area on diagram or exhibit 1 on page 3 of the briefing note indicates that there is an area of rural development adjacent to the rural commercial area where the applicant would like to rezone to rural commercial, which would allow for the economic activities his vision is to carry out there. So the recommendation from the Planning Advisory Committee was to rezone from rural development to rural commercial. So this would be first reading, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, thank you very much, Madam CEO. You all have that in your package. What is the wishes of council?
Hello.
I'll make that recommendation. All right.
All right, so you, just to be clear, Councillor, I think it was Patty Durkee that made the motion that you move that the first reading to approve the expansion of the rural commercial zone to include the areas shown attached in Exhibit 1 is identified as the portion to be rezoned. Is that the motion you're
Yes,
making?
Yes, yes.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor Lauren Cushing. You all clear on the motion? Question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Contrary minded? Motion carried. Item number 9, new
Mr.
business.
Chairman, if I could, sorry, Mr. Chairman, just before you move on. So just an important piece for council and for reading into the record. So ordinarily when council makes first reading of amendments to zoning in the municipal planning strategy, we move those along in the process as quickly as the calendar will allow. And so we have communicated to this particular client that due to the election, there will be an additional 30 days on the timeline just to allow for the election and the swearing in. So second reading will not happen until we have the public hearing and the next council meeting in November.
Thank you very much, Madam CAO. I forgot to mention that. I do remember that being brought up at the Planning Advisory Committee meeting. Okay, moving on. Item number 9.1. August Development Report. You all have that in your package. Any questions, comments, concerns? If not, I would entertain a motion to accept the August Development Report as circulated. Moved by Councillor Patty Durkee. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Daniel Allen. Motion on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. Thank you very much, Council. Item 9.2, CAO's report. You all have that in your package. Is there any questions, comments, or concerns for the CAO in regards to that report? Madam CAO.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. If I could, through you to council, just draw your attention to the information I shared regarding our rural internet projects. So I pulled some information from Develop Nova Scotia's website around kind of where we're at as a region, the Western region. So there, which would include Digby and Yarmouth counties. There are 5,560 civic addresses that have been approved for funding through the Develop Nova Scotia administration of the Nova Scotia Internet Trust. And so I just want to share with council that if you think about Modi's awards by population and by civic address in that catchment area, so that catchment area is about 41,450 people, of which Modi would have 23.75%. If you go by civic address, Modi would have on the 26,432 civic addresses, Modi would have about 23%. And so I shared with you that we've captured in our awards 30% of the approved civic addresses. So we're trending above our proportionate share by population and by civic address. So I would say that by and large, our work with Develop Nova Scotia, the Western Rand, and our internet service provider is achieving the desired goals for council.
Thank you very much, Madam CAO. Is there any more questions, comments, concerns? Councillor Trevor Cunningham.
Yes, just with regard to our motion of September 16th, 2020, around the 3 sidewalk projects, the Port Maitland to Richmond Road, Port Maitland School from from the Richmond Road to the Port Maitland School, the Greenville Road to the Greenville the Greenville Road from the railway bid to Highway 1, and Dayton from the red and white to the Greenville Road. When will those, we've got procuring design services, when do you expect us to be able to have an engineer procured to do that engineering work?
Sure, thanks, Councillor Cunningham. We will be working with the standing offer list to do this procurement exercise. The documentation is being developed right now by the engineers in the Public Works, and it's probably going to take till towards the end of October to get the documents ready and then get them out. So we're probably looking at December before we have a report to council.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any more questions, comments, or concerns? If not, I'd entertain a motion to accept the CAO's report. Moved by Councillor Daniel Allen, seconded by Councillor Trevor Cunningham. Is there any discussion on that motion? Hearing none. Question being called. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded?
Mr. Chair, just before you move on from my report, if I could have the floor for just 1 second. I don't have anything written in my CAO's report, but as this is my last report to this sitting council, I do want to take the opportunity to thank the councillors for the strategic direction you've given to me and to Team Modi in the time that we've worked together. If you were to look at the CAO reports cumulatively, I think that we've had a great pace in the 2.5 years that we've worked together. And I think the residents of the District of Yarmouth have received excellent service from their elected officials. And I want to thank you for the clarity in your direction to me and my team.
You're welcome.
Madam
Thank
CAO.
you.
Thank you.
Moving on, item 9.3, Modi letter to the Honorable Minister Bernadette Jordan. You all have that in your package, and also you have letters from the Municipality of Shelburne, the Municipality of Clare, the Municipality of Argyle, the Municipality of Barrington, and also the Town of Yarmouth. Any comments, questions, and concerns on those? Councillor Daniel Allen.
I just want to say that I'm proud to say that our council stepped up and wrote a letter to the Honorable Bernadette Jordan on behalf of our municipality. I want to make clear, I've been to some of the, I don't want to call them protests, demonstrations. This is about conservation of a vital resource that is essential to our end of the province. And we've just asked her to step in and actually do what she has been appointed to do, which is make some decisions. So I'm glad that we took part in this. I'm glad we wrote this letter. I think that all the areas in concern, and we're not seeing the District of Shelburne also sent a letter. Our MLA, not our MLA, but Colton LeBlanc sent a letter. I just think that this is vital to our end of the province right now. It's a $500 million industry and it needs some protection. And hopefully she'll get to the table and get things solved to a peaceful resolution between everyone, and hopefully everyone will be able to move on safely. So anyways, thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Allen. The intent of the letter was to ask the Minister Bernadette Jordan to sit down with both sides to come to a peaceful resolution to this, and all all the letters that there in front of you all echo that same sentiment. Thank you very much, Council. No other concerns or questions. Moving on. Item number 9.4, TIR cleaning of road debris in sidewalk areas. Councillor Trevor Cunningham.
Right, I've had several folks mention this on the campaign trail, and I agree with them and have brought it up before, although it seems to be a vexing problem to solve. And I told them so. So on the sidewalks through Hebron and up on the Brooklyn Road, there's debris, organic debris that collects in next to the curbing and the interface of the curbing and the pavement, and there are cracks. And anyway, eventually plants root down in it, weeds and all this type of thing, and they grow high and they're very, very unsightly, and then it packs even more. And even I know TIR is aware of this, but it is really TIR's property, is my understanding. I've talked with the CAO about it. But people, I mean, it's an important enough issue that people have mentioned it, and I've mentioned it previously. So I think maybe we should write a letter to TIR potentially, asking them to clean in the municipality the sidewalk, clear that debris and clear those weeds off of the sidewalk areas, the interface between the paving and the concrete. So I'll move the municipality of District of Yarmouth, write TIR to remedy the organic debris collection along the interface of the pavement and the curbing in the municipality of District of Yarmouth where sidewalks are concerned.
Motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Lauren Cushing. Madam CAO, me and you discussed this when we were talking about you. Can you update some councillors that are unfamiliar what Councillor Trevor Cunningham is talking about?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'd be happy to. So transportation and infrastructure renewal across the province is very aware that this is an issue provincially. Municipalities invest in linear transportation and work collaboratively with TIR on the capital and the operations and maintenance pieces. I'm given to understand because our Director of Public Works sits on a roundtable with TIR and colleagues across the province where perennial or persistent municipal provincial issues come up. They're looking for ways to collaborate to solve them, and this is one of those issues that they're discussing. So we believe that we understand the challenge to be that there's either one or very few machines that do this work for the province, and that municipalities do not have a mechanism to put projects on the work plan for that machine when it arrives in communities. And so what public works directors are finding is one morning the machine is in their community and then it's gone the next, and they don't have a chance to get work scheduled in on those linear transportation pieces. So quite likely the strategy I'll employ at this point is to work with my colleague at TIR and ask the question about how do we advance that conversation that's taking place at the roundtable to see about providing a solution here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So there is a motion on the floor. What does council wish? Is there any more discussion on that motion? If not, I'd entertain a question.
Question.
Question being called on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. Item number 10, correspondence, 10.1 for action. 10.1.1, J-Class Roads cost share overruns. Madam CAO?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So as part of the capital investment plan this year, on the operating side of our budget, you have invested in money to provide upgrades to Lilac Hill and Goodwin Drive. Now, those investments appear on our operating budget because we don't own the assets. So that's why it doesn't appear on the capital budget. And so you had agreed to invest $89,500 in the two projects together. And I received the correspondence that's included from TIR because between when the estimates were done and when the procurement process finalized, there's over 20% increase in the costs when the bids came in. And so that is above my threshold to approve unilaterally. what I'd like to share with council is that investment will come out of your transportation and roads budget, which you have included in that $171,427 this year. You've got your mandatory contribution back to the province on your J-class roads of $81,427, and then the previously approved investments in Goodwin for $52,500 and Lilac for $37,500. And so what I'm coming to council for tonight is for approval to spend an additional $22,000 between the two roads. So from $52,500 to $66,000 on Goodwin, and from $37,500 to $45,500 on Lilac, to complete those resurfacing projects. And I know the question will be, where's the money coming from? When we did our mid-year budget review, we did discover that our revenues were outpacing what we expected to. So it's my belief that we do have room within our statement of expenses to absorb this increased investment.
What is the wishes of council? Councillor Trevor Cunningham.
So I'll move that we approve the additional funding for the two projects, Goodwin Drive and Lilac Hill Road, to account for the overages is indicated by our CEO, and perhaps we could read the final amount of the additional dollars needed, Ms. Brooks. It was 22.5, was it, or am I wrong?
An additional 22,000, Councillor Cunningham.
22,000. Okay.
Okay, a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Daniel Allen. Any discussion on the motion?
Question?
Question being called on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. Thank you, Council. Correspondence, item 10.2. This is for your information. You have correspondence from the Honorable Chuck Porter. Correspondence in regards to small modular reactors, and also correspondence in regards to a letter from the REN board chair. There's no action required for that. That's for council's information. Item
Chair?
yes. I'm sorry, I was looking down. Councillor Patty Durkee, then Councillor Councillor Trevor Cunningham.
Thank you. I just want to bring to your attention the letter from the REN board chair, and essentially what they're saying is that any communication to the REN staff in future, it should have been in the past as well, because there was an issue, should go through the liaison and oversight committee member who is on who is from our municipality. So let me try that one again. So any questions or concerns that are being directed to staff should go through their representative from the liaison and oversight committee. So you direct the question to the member on our council, and the member will take it to the staff at the REN.
Thank you very much, Councillor Durkee.
You're welcome.
Councillor Trevor Cunningham.
Right. The small modular reactor piece, I just put that in there as an interest piece. There's no clear path to that. The technology is very, very new, but it is something we should keep on our radar in the years and maybe even decades ahead, because Mr. O'Regan, who's Minister of Natural Resources for Canada, rightly asserts that there's no clear path to net zero, which is putting as much carbon, taking as much carbon out of the air of the planet as we're putting in. So there's no path to that by 2050 without this technology. And it may be an answer to for a relatively small rural community, that it's sort of scalable. And again, I don't know much about the economics of it, but we should watch it, because energy, especially with all the battery-powered vehicles, and likely there'll be fishing boats battery-powered in the future as well. So having a ready supply of energy is something we should aim for over the long term. But again, something to consider over the very, very long term, and just wanted to put it in there for the record. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, moving on. Item number 11, reports on committees. Item 11.1, the legal entities part. I have any committee reports that I have in any of these is been handwritten. Does any counselor have anything to add in the legal entities? Counselor Daniel Allen.
Well, the Mariner Center Management Authority, I think, is very happy as it's been put out to press that we have hired a new CAO. His name is Doram Hadid. I'm hoping I'm doing his name justice. I only met him today for a few minutes. And he is already on the go. It was not an easy, like, come in and take your time. We put his feet right to the fire, and he's working. He's on some big things already. So I just want to say we're very happy to have him with us. I think he's going to have great vision for the Mariner Center and the Mariner Center expansion, and I am very happy to see him there.
Thank you very much, Counselor Allen. Is there any more committee reports under legal entities? Hearing none, we'll move on to item 11.2, the advisory committees. We also, we did have a report from the Planning Advisory Committee, which Council dealt with earlier. Is there any other reports? Councilor Trevor Cunningham.
Well, obviously, the audit committee met and discussed the financial statements of both the consolidated and non-consolidated statements of the municipality in depth. And we saw a report here from our auditors, and we've got a clean audit, and we're in good financial condition. So for that, I think we can all be thankful, and we'll be able to build some of the capital projects that we need to build over the next couple of years to stay competitive and attract people to our wonderful community. So that's the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Patty Durkee.
Thank you. I just want to report from the Doctor Recruitment and Retention Committee that some of the family medicine doctors have been taking new patients, but they are all on the 811 list. So if you need a doctor, it's extremely important that you are on that list. You can do it online or you can call them. There's a number through NSHA to get on that, to get on the list. Calling would probably be difficult because of the COVID situation that I know the lines are tied up for testing. So just go online and make sure that you are on that list.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Absolutely, Councillor Allen.
Back to legal entities. I'm sorry I didn't quite have time to chime in. I'm just wondering, has there been any meetings with the Yarmouth International Airport Corporation? And is there any updates? I know we had a big meeting here a couple months ago. I'm just wondering if there's been any updates since.
Councillor Allen, there has not. However, there is a meeting that's coming up on October the 9th. I am the chair of that committee.
Yeah.
We're waiting for some reports on a few things. We're looking to
Okay.
But that's
All right.
what the meeting is. October.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
October the 9th at 2:30, I believe it is. Any more reports on the advisory committees? I do have a quick update on the CAO committee. I do have the final signature of the CAO on the CAO's final report to her. So I'm going to be signing off on that this evening, just for an update to council on that. And CAO, we'll be looking forward to another report. I think it's coming up pretty quick in March. Moving on, item number 11.3, ad hoc committee. Is there any reports on any of those? There's no report on anything. Item number 12. This is usually reserved for the wardens or deputy wardens remarks. However, this is our council's last meeting in this term, the last regularly scheduled meeting in this term. And what I've decided to do as chair is to give each and every one of you councilors a less than 5-minute chance to reflect on some thoughts and possibly successes this council has had over this past 4-year term. So whoever wishes to speak first, I'll acknowledge you and then we'll move on from there. Councillor Patty Durkee, you have the floor.
Thank you. First of all, I just want to say it's been my privilege to represent the residents of District 4 on our council for the last 4 years. I've enjoyed being on council. I know there's some positive and some negatives, but I think we've done a lot of great things for our residents. I think we've made a difference in their lives, and we still have lots of things on the go that I think are really positive. One of the highlights for me has been the chair of the Doctor Recruitment and Retention Committee. It's been a pleasure working with all the members of that committee, and I think that we've made a lot of great progress, and we're continuing to move forward with that. And I think, to me, that's one of the most important committees because it has to do with the health and safety of our residents. We are finally making progress on rural internet. And I know when we first started, people said we've been talking about this for 10 years, and we have, but now we know things are actually in action and happening. We've moved our business park forward. We're changing that, and we've got new businesses in there, and I think that's really positive. And what a great job our staff did, in particular Victoria, working with Millennium One when Webb decided that they were going to be leaving. Our new council is going to have a major task, and that's looking at the municipal planning strategy and the land use bylaw. And we've got some environmental issues that are happening, and I'm really hoping once we start taking a look at that we may that might help. Let's see what else. I thoroughly enjoyed going to NSFM and FCM conferences. I think the networking opportunities and the connections that I made, and also being on the NSFM board, helped me. I mean, I made decisions pertaining to the people across the province, and that was really interesting and exciting. And I hope being reelected that if I get reelected, I get to sit for another term. So I'm looking forward to that. But there's a couple things that I really need to say, and that's about the future. And one thing that the residents need to understand is that we can't do everything. You know, we have a budget, we have to stick to our budget, and we're not responsible for certain things that people think that we can do. And one of those things is roads. And I still hear people talk about roads all the time. And I would just want the public to understand that that is not our responsibility, that roads and signs are the responsibility of the province and highways, and we can advocate and we can bring information forward, but we can't fix it. We can't change it, and we don't know how long it will be before some of these roads are repaired or fixed. So I just want the community to understand that's not the municipal councillor's job. Not only that, is that, you know, our districts are important, our municipality is important, and it's our first priority, but we also have big regional issues that we have to discuss. And we can't work in silos, and we have to work together, and that's been our biggest challenge since I've been on council. We have to be a team player. We have to be prepared to collaborate. And I hope the next council can continue in the steps that we've taken to try and fix that. Just a couple of highlights. I was really happy that at the beginning, I was able to convince council to put $10,000 towards the Lake and District Fire Department. We were able to work together with all levels of government on the Sanford Drawbridge. It still needs to be painted, but COVID's kind of prevented us from moving forward with that. Another one is I work collaboratively with the community to move ahead with some of the Port Maitland Wharf infrastructure. And that's still in the works, and I'd like to be able to continue with that. And last but not least, I know it didn't happen this year and COVID got in the way like it did a lot of things, and that is our beach will be accessible next summer, and I thank everybody for their cooperation on that project. I think it's a great project that a lot of people will benefit from. And I want to thanks to all of you. I know we've had our pluses and our minuses. We've had our challenges, but in the end, we all worked together and came to consensus on some amazing things for our community. So best of luck to everybody. And thanks for your support.
Thank you very much, Councillor Patty Durkee. Who would like to go next? Councillor Trevor Cunningham.
Yes, I'd just like to extend my my thanks to all the other councillors. We in Arceo, of course, and all the rest of the staff. We had I think a successful 4 years. Got a lot of things done. built an upgraded public works building for staff. Wasn't easy at times, but ultimately we chose the best option along with, you know, some advice from our CAO. And again, we got a $650,000-$700,000 project done. Brought a underutilized asset into really a high functioning asset, and local contractors built that. So that was a positive. I won't repeat all the things that Patty said, but and she was right. We have accomplished a lot. Certainly Millennium One, she did mention that. You know, just recently the golf course, we provided funding for those golf cart paths, $30,000. So that helped them out, and you know, that's a really valuable asset for local recreation. Listen, golfing is great during COVID, and when the tourists return, they'll flock to the golf course. So I'm very, very pleased with that. You know, some things that people don't notice is underneath the ground, but we did do a lot of sewer upgrades. We did some of that along the Milo stretch and other areas. I believe some out in Arcadia and so forth as well. Prospect Street, I was about the roads. So we did write a letter to both the town and the province. And during my canvassing, I had several people comment about the condition of Prospect Street. And I told them what we had is a council. So thank you all for voting for that. We'd written the province and the town a letter about that because they do share responsibility for repaving a Prospect Street. Certainly, we did upgrade the Milo Boat Club washrooms, and quite a bit of work there over the period. That's going to be, it's a fantastic improvement. The Milo stretch, you know, we've got that in play for some fantastic, maybe boardwalking, bike trails, some jetties. We'll see what happens there, but that's to come. The engineers will take a look at that and see what we can really do there at a reasonable cost. And some of the sidewalking projects, the 340, we got that done. Big project, $800,000. And now we're going to do one out in Port Maitland near the school, and couple in the Hebron area around the Greenville Road and down to the Red and White. Just all in all, lots of good projects, and very, very pleased to have worked with all the other councillors to you know, really move the municipality forward. And we will get the pool issue solved, I think, collectively as a community, and we'll get the new one built as well next term. So I'm not gonna talk about our project out at the Cape. I'm gonna defer that to Mr. Cushing. So I'll turn things over to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cunningham. Warren Cushing, you have.
Well, I was wondering if Trevor's going to allow me to take some credit somewhere along the line here. So, but anyway, I think we as a council, I think we've accomplished a lot in the past 4 years. Unfortunately, a lot of the citizens really don't realize what we have done. And in saying that, I do often have, I won't say often, but the odd time I have, what do you as a councillor actually do? You know, so all they have to do is look at some of the projects that are going on in the municipality and through Yarmouth County itself, and they will kind of understand that. But I was very fortunate. I was the council representative on the asset management team, which I think is I'm very interested in that type of, lack of a better word, life cycling, because I had to do it a lot in my own business sort of thing, right? So I'm very interested in that, and I think we've accomplished a lot, and it's certainly going to help us with future budgets. Secondly, the Cape Pursuit Comprehensive Master Plan was phenomenal. You know, I've seen where we've done workshops before in different areas, and you have maybe 2 or 3 people show up, and away you go. For this particular project, I was amazed to see that, you know, 20, 30, up to 40 people and public people coming in and looking at plans, and in the middle of the winter and blowing, and just a terrible day to be out. But there was still a lot of interest and a lot of input into this plan, and I'm looking forward to continue on with that. I've also been known to try to think outside the box. And in saying that, I was very happy to be able to convince other government departments for having a guardrail installed on the Highway 304, where people who live in District 6 refer to it as John Cann's Hill. A very steep slope that in the wintertime when black ice, there's cars and whatnot would slide down over. There have been some minor injuries, and over the years has been very fortunate that nobody seriously is hurt. But the fact is that road is a very busy road with fuel trucks going to the boats, trailer trucks hauling fish out of the Yarmouth Bar and Sheboygan Point, and also bringing bait back and lobsters and whatnot. So it's a very heavily used area, and plus with the people going to work and whatnot. And that particular section was very slippery. So with the guardrail now, yes, we've had a few cars slide into the guardrail, but that's pretty minor to what some serious problems could have had, right? Also, I made aware that we needed an armor stone in certain areas down in Cape Purchou area that we were fortunate enough to have placed. And also, we got to think about the Yarmouth Bar Causeway. Of course, it was on the plan to be redone at one time, but I was able to get it moved up to a higher priority, and it is finally completed. The most exciting part, the part that really sold that whole project, when I stopped on top of the causeway onto the stretched steel portion, and the gentleman with me, the Western Zone guy, I said, when we get out and take a look at this? No, he said, we don't have to do that. I said, no, let's get out and take a look. So when we get out, when he could actually put his foot through part of that grate, he got on the phone immediately and called and made sure that was going to be patched by the end of the week or the first part of the week. And then he made another phone call. I was there. He made another phone call. He said, we want to move the Cape Purchou Causeway project moved to a higher level. And I was there and I witnessed that. So I think that was kind of a selling point. I also worked with the executive of our Pembroke Community Hall to establish some intergovernmental funding to increase that facility. We spent over $100,000 into making that happen, of which our community hall since 2008, when I kind of took the president part over it, I was able to surround myself with some good volunteers, and we raised over $24,000 ourselves to put in towards that project. So I'm very happy with that. And our music was music nights are very entertaining. It's a great chance for seniors to get out. One of the most pleasant parts of that whole music night is when they break for lunch around 8 o'clock and seeing the seniors, I'm a senior, about older seniors, making new friends and just getting together. It's just a pleasant way for them to enjoy life. I get calls regularly now, but when am I going to open up that hall again to the music night? And it's not going to happen until this foolishness of COVID-19 is over with, because most of the seniors have some type of underlying conditions too, and I don't want anything to happen to them. So that was very exciting. On the conservation part, the Goose Flats, Upper Dyke, Pembroke, whichever you want to call it. Years ago, there used to be an old wharf there, and actually we used to fish off that wharf for catching flounders, big flounders over there, right? And there's also a sluiceway there that allow kayaks, we call them, Gasperos, eels, and whatnot, to migrate into the fresh water and then return to the salt water to spawn. And the locals in that area were always trying to sneak down before I came counselor, and try to just dig out a stream to try to get them fish to migrate like they're supposed to, and also to try to drain the water off of their land because it was flooding their land. So by holding a meeting in the winter of 2017, I got the community together, and I got the different levels of the provincial departments different departments of the provincial together, and there was no solution found. So that's why I think public participation is so important. I asked the people that were there, and there's probably 30 people there, maybe more, right around that little area. I said, how far do you want me to push this? They said, push it as far as you can. So in saying that, 2017, I had DFO pay for the clearing of the sluice. 2018, I had DFO pay for the cleaning of the sluice. 2019, the same thing, and 2020, the same thing again. Now, the land is being drained, the sluice slots are being drained properly. People are able to enjoy their land again, and the kayaks are schooling. This spring, they were schooling up into Island Pond and returning back. So I think those are some pretty important projects that I've been able to do by thinking outside the box. And I like to be able to continue doing that. And I gave you an example of tonight about how I wanted to think of outside the box with that East Hants Aquatic Center that everybody wants to pull their hair out and look like me and whatnot. But let's think outside the box to make things happen. We can do it. We have smart people in all 3 municipalities. So, and I want to thank all the rest of my fellow councilors out there for the cooperation and the hard work that we've all done over the past 4 years. And I wish you all the best of luck. And I hope to see you guys back on October 18th. So take care. Oh, I just been disturbed by a little puppy dog. Okay, thank you.
Good. I was going to disturb you. Spoke over by 3 minutes. I do time people, by the way. So, but that's all right. Councillor Daniel Allen.
Well, I got to say, this is probably my weakest point at this council table. I hate bringing the light on myself. The last 4 years has been an incredible experience. Communication is the key to this. Working with your partners, working with the people around the table, working with our sister municipalities, other levels of government departments, communication is key. Without it, we're by ourselves. We've done a lot of projects together. Like Millennium One, we saved 100 jobs there. Hopefully the potential for 300. When the fire departments lost dispatch, we were there to help facilitate them and get them into a new situation that hopefully is working for them now. We have the Mariner Center expansion coming up where 3 municipalities have got to get together. They've got to work together and make a huge investment in our community and a worthwhile investment in our community. I don't think anybody would argue that. I currently sit on the bridge committee. We're trying to figure out a way to provide programming to get us to that new facility from the old facility. I'd like to continue doing that work as part of council. We can't do any of this without a great team. And our council, for me, the last 4 years, seeing the work that we've all done and the time we've put in has been incredible. We have a great team to fall back on, starting with our CAO, Victoria Brooks, right straight down through our directors and everyone in the building. It's been a great team. When people are going to vote, I'm not going to keep tooting my horn because I'm not good at that. I just want people to vote. Your opinions matter. We're the closest political people to you. We are the ones that when you pick up the phone and call, we answer. I know I answer, and I know the rest of my councilors answer. They've all got projects that they've done that people have called. Patty Durkee, Trevor, Lauren, just great example with the duck flats. I've worked on numerous road issues with other levels of government to try and get erosion fixed in Pickney's Point, to try and get the famous Arcadia moguls fixed by the old Loomers campground. That was just horrendous. It's exciting. You see by the amount of people that want to be a part of this year, with 20 plus candidates vying for votes that are probably going door to door. They're working hard, and I appreciate what each and every one of you are doing, and myself included. It just shows you that they want to be a part of this, and people are taking notice about our municipality. And that's what it's about, our municipality. We get elected through our districts. And rightfully so, our districts are kind of first and foremost. When people have an issue, that's who they call. It's us, and we get to work. But once you sit at that table, it's a municipality that comes first and foremost. So when we're putting our people there, and when you voters out there, and that's who we're talking to or voting, make sure you're putting people there that are going to put the municipality first. And I don't mean that we got to stand alone, because we have partners that we have to work with. And there are sister communities. Southwest Nova Scotia thrives when we're all working together. It thrives. So I guess just in closing, I really hope people pick up the phone, access the internet, even visit the kiosks and get their cast their vote, because it counts. Every vote counts. Same with when we're sitting at the table. There's 7 of us there, and each vote counts. You might not all vote the same, but you're still a team, and you still got to work together. So the municipality has to hang tight, and we got to work together to get things done. We got a lot of exciting projects coming up, and I, for one, want to be a part of it. And I want to keep the municipality moving forward into the future. And before I finish, I'm just going to say, to move into the future, internet was our big thing. And I think we can finally cross it off our list. We know it's coming. The investment is there. We know by the end of November, we'll have over 300 homes between Arcadia and Pinckney's Point service. And then by 2022, I think, I could be wrong, but I think the number is something like 1,300 more homes that are going to be, our CAO is putting the finger up. So I'll go with 1,400. 1,500. Sounds like an auction here. But anyways, we should be very proud of that, because everyone should be connected. And our municipality has worked hard to get us all connected. So I want to say congratulations to all the councilors on that. And congratulations to our CAO, the REN, our partner that's providing the internet, and just everybody. Anyways, everybody, I want to say it's been a pleasure working with you. Whatever happens after the vote happens, I hope I'm still sitting here, and I'm hoping I'm still working with you. So good luck to you all. Good luck to all the candidates out there. And yeah, Yarmouth Municipality, District Municipality, strong. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Allen. I guess I'm last. Well, I must say this has been quite a term. As some people know and some people don't know, we've had issues with broken bones, heart attacks, deaths in families, cancer diagnosis. It's been a real struggle on personal levels for many councillors in the municipality district of Yarmouth, and myself included. Way back when we all sat down, we met for the first time. One of the things that crossed my mind was there's a lot of interesting people sitting around the table, and we all have different things to offer to the decisions that we make. Many people think that when I make a decision, that when I speak, that my mind is set, and there's nothing that anybody can do to change it. I've always had an open mind, and I certainly valued each and every one of your opinions and input. Have we disagreed? Absolutely. What family doesn't disagree? And I consider any council to be a family. Do we have problems? Every family has problems. No family's perfect. But at the end of the day, we all worked through our problems. Even though they were uncomfortable, we laughed, we cried, we made real tough decisions, and we made some decisions that were real easy. I've disagreed with some councillors on some of the capital projects we do. But at the end of the day, when the decision was made, whether any of us were in favor or any of us were against it, we supported council as a whole at the end of the day. We've always done that. There was never any road councillors that gone out there, and if anyone was going to do it, I'm going to hold my hand up. I would more than likely be that guy to do it. But I know that in government and in a democracy, there's give and take. And we've worked really hard to have the give and take. There's some projects and stuff that are going on now that I don't particularly agree on, But however, there's a large internet project that's going on that benefits everybody in the municipality. At the end of the day, as a council, you have to outweigh the needs of the many to the needs of the few, and we've done that. As your deputy warden, and since our warden is currently on leave, I've had my eyes opened on what I thought I knew and what I actually knew were two different things. And to be very honest, for a while here, about 6 months ago, I was having a lot of trouble because I felt like I was drinking from a 4-inch fire hose at 100 pounds pressure, which would basically push you down the street. And it was quite difficult for me. But I'm glad that each and every one of you, including our staff members, stepped up and says, if you need something, ask. When I asked, none of you hesitated. And I certainly appreciate each and every one of you. This council's gone through a lot more staff members than you think we have. Yes, we have 2 new staff members sitting with us tonight. Our CAO, Victoria Brooks, and also our recording clerk and communications officer, Victoria Pierce. Some little fact that you may not know, we've had a 30% overturn in the past 4 years of municipal staff. Those people are, I've already mentioned the 2 Victorias, Victoria Brooks and Victoria Pierce. There's also Jenny Porter, who was here earlier with us. There's another person, Sarah LeBlanc, Jillian Camo, Noah DeVoe, Morgan Churchill, and someone new entering the team is Caitlin Shediak, our new junior finance person. There's been a lot of changes in the municipality over the past 4 years. And I'd really like to thank our CAO, Victoria Brooks, for all the help that and guidance that she's provided me. Well, at the end of the day, as it sits right now, what I say goes, but she's always put in her input, and I've always encouraged input from everybody. And something that I've always had trouble to do is to delegate some of my responsibilities. But like I said, I'm slowly learning that, and this council's made it very easy. And one thing I wanted to say to all the candidates that are out there, I'm very thankful that each and every one of you put your name forward. I was attending a candidates meeting last night. Even though I'm acclaimed, I think it's very important that I went to there and just listened to everybody. Something that I have learned to do this term is listen. I would be honored to sit with each and every one of them that sat around that table. Is there going to be any new faces at the next council table? I don't know. It's up for the public to decide. But at the end of the day, the public makes the ultimate decision, and we're the servants of the public. But this council that I've served with this term, I'd like to thank each and every one of you. It's been tough. Like I said, there's been some medical issues, and I was one of those that I didn't know if I was going to come back. But each and every one of you were just a rock. Even with some of the troubles that we've had, each and every one of you stepped up. And I'd like to thank everyone once again. And as Councillor Allen said to everybody, get out and vote. That's our democratic right, and we must do it. So thank you very much again, everyone. I probably went over my 5 minutes. Thank you very much. Item 12, Councillors Roundtable is finished. We'll move on to other business. Is there any other business? Item number 14, in camera. We do have one in camera item. So I'd like to entertain a motion to move into camera. Councillor Daniel Allen, do I have a seconder? Councillor Patty Durkee. All those in favor to go into camera signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Thank you. All right, everyone, we finished our in-camera session. Is there any in-camera recommendations to come forward? Hearing none. Thank you very much, Council. It's been quite a 4 years, and we've already discussed that on the Councilors Roundtable. So I guess the last motion to adjourn this term, Council's term, is in order. Councilor Daniel Allen, seconded by Councilor Lauren Cushing. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Thanks, everyone.
Contrary minded?
Motion carried.
Motion carried. Thank you very much, everyone. It's been
Okay, thanks, everybody. Take care.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Council.